So I have tried every form out there to try and teach my kids right and wrong. I'm proud of the way my kids turned out. Um, Not to say that they're all perfect. They've gone through hell, and that hell taught them a lot about life. And I am definitely limited in what I can teach my children. But I started gaining some success with my very last child. And this is one story that I'll share that I know without a doubt is more effective than anything else that I've tried. And what was going on at the time is she had her father heavily manipulating her for over 2 months. There was a lot of bribing going on. There was a lot of negative talk about me. Don't listen to your mother. Don't respect your mother. She's the cause of everything that you don't like. So my child was learning how not to be responsible or accountable because her father was teaching her that everything that was going wrong in her life was her mother's fault and don't listen to her. And at this particular time, I had very little money. We were trying to survive. And the money that I did have was for survival. We needed to pay the rent and we needed to pay the food. Those were the prime things. And I didn't even have enough money to pay for those two. I did have a vehicle at the time, which I was about to lose. I couldn't afford to use any gas. So any amount of gas that I did put in there was kind of really, really important. Anyways, um, she wanted me to go and pick her up. And so I went and picked her up, and she didn't even bother telling me that, oh, she got somebody to give her a ride. So here I am driving around, picking her up, and she's not there. So I'm driving all over the place trying to find out where she is, only to come home to find out, oh, somebody just gave her a ride. She never bothered taking the time to say, don't bother coming and picking me up. I've got a ride. So I was really, really kind of ticked off that she didn't have any respect for the money that we had in our household and how much, this was needed to feed her and provide the rent. So I was trying to communicate with her to be a little bit more responsible, and she massively flipped out. And did turn out to be violent. I ended up being on a cement floor with my head hitting the cement. She was definitely very, very, very angry. And so, I kept myself safe for a few days and tried to figure out, okay, how can I communicate with this kid? Meanwhile, she is going to a school system. She is telling her version of the story. And yeah, I'm the big bad parent. And so I have, society looking down and judging me as being the one that's wrong because of all the stories that we tell. And it's a very, very tough position to be in when all of society is saying to your children, don't trust your parent. They're not doing anything right by you, and it's like, how the hell can you even influence your children right from wrong if all of society, all of these religious people, all of these teachers are teaching your kids don't listen to your parents? So anyways, I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can I calm this kid down so that we can have a conversation? And I know that if, tempers are flaring, that never did anybody any good. Nobody was making any point or any sense of that. So I did have very little money and I couldn't afford to do what I did, but I just like, okay, God, like if this is what you're telling me to do, I'm going to trust that you're going to provide to have the bills paid for if I follow through on the suggestion. So what I ended up doing is I bought her favorite foods. She likes a specific cheese that was very expensive. There were a few fruits and different types of foods that were sort of a luxury, but I knew she really, really loved them. So I bought her favorite foods. I bought some candles. I bought some bubble bath. And I bought this sign that says "Just breathe." So I came into the house and, I left them on the table and then just left so that she could, see what it is. And I left her a little note. And so she did end up, taking a bath and really calming down and had her favorite food. So what happened is she ended up being a lot calmer. She ended up feeling loved by me because she thought that I didn't love her. And there's nothing that I can do that would make somebody actually receive any love. You can do everything in the world to love your child, but if they're not able to receive that love, they will not feel it. So you have to sort of put them in a position to be able to receive love. You really have to wrap them around anything that makes them feel love. And, that's more, traditionally that would appear like, okay, she was misbehaving, and what did I do? Reward her. Bad, bad thing. And not necessarily. It did have to be backed up with a conversation, but that set both of us up to, okay, let's have some communication going on. And, can you understand my perspective and where I'm coming from? And can you see that I'm understanding your perspective and where you're coming from? And because all forms of discipline were basically stripped away from me, I couldn't do any form. It would mean physical violence if I did any traditional discipline. So all forms of discipline were taken away from me. I could not even give any advice. So my biggest lesson was sometimes you need to let your kids learn from their own mistakes, and try and have the conversation with them, and at least give them information that will help them down the road to make their own decisions, because I can't be the one telling them what's right for them. I'm not in their shoes. I can't judge what they're faced with every day. They have to learn how to think for themselves, and make decisions for themselves that are right for them, but also right for their community, and their future, for their family, everything. So it's more of, when you want to raise your kids, it's been my advice, my experience that didn't come until later, um, that is proving to be successful, that you're going to be more effective if you show a lot more understanding, a lot more compassion. You allow some mistakes to be made, and the mistakes tend to go away really fast. They're less and less if you sort of just allow them to happen. But as long as you're trying to prevent and prevent and prevent mistakes from happening, then you end up recreating more and more mistakes to happen. I found mistakes increased the more I tried to stop it. But the more I just kind of went, okay, because I reflected on myself and thought, you know what, I learned my biggest lessons through my mistakes. So if it was that valuable to me, I knew that it would be valuable to them, so I had to allow them the gift of making mistakes, even though I was totally in disagreement with it. Now, I'm really, really impressed with this child. She's just enrolling back in school. She's involved in environmental studies. She knows how to make things happen in her life. She's a very, very good person. She does good to other people. She's forgiving of other people. She lets other people get a second chance. She can understand everybody else's perspective. She's forgiving. I don't really see her doing much sinning at all. So it's like, how is that bad advice at all? So there's one aspect of the Bible that says, spoil the rod. There's one aspect of the Bible that I totally disagree with, and that's a sign that our Bibles and our religion is kind of screwed up, because actually spoiling the child is what taught the child. And it's not about spoiling the kid. It's about showing the child the love that they need to feel. It's not depriving them of the love that they're lacking. It's a matter of, you need to put your children in a state of love and then have the conversation. And you yourself have to know the difference between right and wrong as well. And like I say, I was Mummy Dearest as well, and there's definitely a different side to this story. This is only my perception of the story. But ultimately, at the end, it's like, are you okay with how things turned out? Am I okay with how things turned out? So something along the line worked out. And it's not about being stuck on our stories. I'm only using this story as an example of what it taught me and how it improved me as a parent. So this guy is judging me to be big and bad and evil and, worshiping Satan, but he's praying for an Armageddon. He's trying to look at his perspective that while he thinks he's not sinning, he's trying to get everybody to do things his way and believe in this Bible that has not a lot of bad advice, but there are some things that you can misinterpret and actually be sinning and not even know it. Um, he's going out and saying the people that need the most preaching are people that are living in poverty. He can't even see the connection that there's nothing wrong with people that are in poverty. You have to kind of see that, people that were in Africa, they were living fine. They had no problems. They were respecting each other, respecting their community. Life was fine until slave masters came, and most of them were Christians, and took them over and then put them into slavery for years. And do you think that's not going to mess up your mind? Do you think that's, getting physically beaten and tortured and suppressed? You think that's not going to create some anger? And then you're going to think that, oh, we need to preach to those people because they're the ones that are wrong, because they're a little angry, and their anger is reflected in, yeah, okay, some violence in society, but this repentance goes a long way. And if these slave masters were giving back to people that are from Africa that have a genetic history of slavery, if there was some true repentance from these religious people, then you'll see it's, any person that was from Africa, that all of their anger will go away. They have absolutely zero problem. They do not need to be preached to. It's the slave masters, it's the people that had the wealth, that are genetically wealthy, that need the preaching more than people that are living in poverty. But this guy can't get that, and he's not even looking at the possibility of, okay, God, how can we save the freaking planet? He's not even asking for that. He's not even putting him in a position of power so that God would give him any answers. He ain't asking God for any answers. He's just, it's written in stone, like the guide stones that say we need to destroy our planet and we need to die, and that's the way we get saved, is through our death. So, the people that are evil is maybe this guy and not me. Peace out.